The broken fleet arrives, the limping giants. The three ships that approached the Galactic Defense Summit Station looked like they had been through hell itself. The lead vessel Perseverance trailed sparks and debris from her damaged hull. Her sister, ship's Resilience and Defiant Hope, weren't in much better condition. Hull breaches were sealed with emergency patches that glowed red in the darkness of space. Where proud human lettering once marked their sides, now only burn scars and twisted metal remained. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, watching the massive alien station grow larger through the cracked viewport. The station was a marvel of engineering, built by 12 different species working together. Its crystal spires reached out like the arms of a metallic octopus, each section designed for different alien environments. Some areas glowed with intense heat for silicon-based life forms. Others were filled with methane clouds for gas-breathing species. The humans had never seen anything so magnificent. "Commander, they're hailing us again," reported Communications Officer James Park. His console sparked as he spoke, and he had to hit it with his fist to keep it working. "The Zephyrian Council wants to know our business here." Sarah straightened her torn uniform and ran a hand through her gray-streaked hair. She was only 35, but the last 6 months had aged her a decade. The destruction of Earth and 12 human colonies had left its mark on every survivor. "Put them through, James. It's time we introduced ourselves properly." The main screen flickered to life, showing a being that looked like a living tree made of silver metal. This was Chancellor Vorthak of the Zephyrian Empire, one of the most powerful voices in the Galactic Defense Alliance. His metallic branches swayed as he spoke, and his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Unknown vessels, you are approaching restricted space. The Galactic Defense Summit is for member species only. State your identity and purpose." Sarah stepped forward, despite the protest from her injured leg. A piece of shrapnel from Earth's final battle was still lodged near her knee, but she refused to show weakness. "Chancellor Vorthak, I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. We request an audience with the Galactic Defense Alliance. Humanity seeks membership and alliance against the Devourers." The Chancellor's branches stopped swaying. Behind him, other alien figures moved into view. Sarah recognized some from the intelligence reports Earth had managed to gather before its destruction. There was Ambassador Kresh of the warrior clans, a being that looked like an armored rhinoceros standing upright. Next to him floated Counselor Mist, a cloud of sentient gas contained within a crystalline suit. "Humans," Chancellor Vorthak said, slowly. "We have no record of your species in our databases. Your ships appear to be heavily damaged. Are you refugees seeking sanctuary?" The question stung, but Sarah kept her voice steady. "We are survivors, Chancellor, but we are not here to beg for shelter. We come to offer our strength to the Alliance in the fight against the Devourers." A sound that might have been laughter came from Ambassador Kresh. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rumbling like distant thunder. "Your strength? Look at your vessels, human. They can barely maintain orbit. What possible strength could you offer to warriors who have held the line against the Devourers for 1,000 years? Sarah felt the eyes of her crew upon her. They had lost everything, their homes, their families, their entire civilization. But they had not lost their pride. "Ambassador Kresh, perhaps you would allow us to dock and present our case properly. I believe you will find humanity's contribution to this alliance unique. The station's embrace." The docking process took 3 hours. The human ships were so badly damaged that the station's automated systems couldn't recognize their docking ports. Engineer Luna Rodriguez had to manually override 17 different safety protocols just to get the Perseverance connected to the station's power grid. Luna was barely 23, fresh out of the academy when Earth burned. She had kept the fleet running through impossible repairs, jury-rigged solutions, and pure determination. Her hands were permanently stained with engine grease, and she hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a time in months. But every time someone suggested she rest, she would just shake her head and get back to work. "Systems are stable for now," Luna reported to Sarah as they prepared to disembark, "but don't plan on staying too long. The reactor is held together with spare parts and prayer. We need proper supplies soon, or we'll be floating dead in space." Dr. Marcus Webb approached them, carrying his medical bag and a secure data case. Marcus was the fleet's chief medical officer, but he carried secrets that went far beyond medicine. Hidden in his data case were the complete records of humanity's final stand against the Devourers. Battle plans, weapon specifications, tactical analysis, everything that remained of human military knowledge. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" Marcus asked quietly. "If they reject us, we have nowhere else to go." Sarah looked at her two most trusted officers, Luna, who could make broken machines work through sheer willpower, Marcus, who had saved more lives than he could count while carrying the weight of humanity's knowledge. These were the people she would present to the galaxy's greatest military alliance. "We're not just asking them to let us join," Sarah said. "We're offering them something they've never had before. The question is whether they're wise enough to accept it." The Grand Assembly, the council chamber, was vast beyond human comprehension. Representatives from dozens of species sat in environments suited to their biology. The heat-loving Pyrothians sat in chambers that glowed like miniature suns. The aquatic deep swimmers moved through tubes filled with their native ocean water. Above them all, the energy beings of the Luminar Collective flickered like living stars. Sarah, Luna, and Marcus stood in the center of it all, looking small and fragile compared to the alien giants around them. Their human forms seemed delicate, next to the armored bulk of the warrior clans or the crystalline perfection of the geometric minds. But they stood straight and proud, despite everything they had lost. Chancellor Vorthak's voice echoed through the chamber. "The humans have requested membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance. They claim to offer strength in our eternal war against the Devourers. Let them present their case." Sarah stepped forward. The weight of her species' survival rested on her shoulders. "Honored delegates, 6 months ago, humanity faced the same enemy you have fought for a millennium. The Devourers came to our systems like a plague of living darkness. They consumed 12 of our colonies before reaching Earth itself." She activated a holographic projector that Luna had repaired just that morning. Images filled the air above the assembly. Scenes of the final battle for Earth. Human ships throwing themselves against impossible odds. Cities burning as evacuation fleets struggled to escape. The last desperate stand at Earth's moon, where Sarah's own ship had been crippled. "We lost," Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the pain of remembering. "Our homeworld is gone. Our civilization is scattered. By every measure, the Devourers defeated us completely." Murmurs ran through the assembly. Some delegates seemed sympathetic, others dismissive. Ambassador Kresh leaned forward in his armored bulk. "Then what do you offer us, humans? The wisdom of defeat?" Sarah smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "No, Ambassador. We offer you something far more valuable. We offer you the knowledge of how to make defeat impossible. The impossible victory, Doctor." Marcus Webb stepped forward and activated his data case. New images appeared in the holographic display, technical specifications, battle analyses, strategic assessments. But these weren't records of defeat. They were blueprints for something unprecedented. "During the final battle for Earth," Marcus explained, "humanity achieved something the galaxy has never seen. We forced the Devourers to retreat." The chamber fell silent. In 1,000 years of war, no species had ever made the Devourers retreat. They consumed everything in their path, leaving nothing but empty space behind. The idea that humans, these small, fragile newcomers, had accomplished the impossible was beyond belief. Counselor Mist's gaseous form swirled with agitation. "Impossible. The Devourers do not retreat. They consume or they are destroyed. There is no middle ground." "That's what we thought too," Sarah replied, "until Commander Torres came up with the sacrifice protocol." Luna activated another set of holographic displays. These showed the final moments of the Battle of Luna Base, the moon fortress that guarded Earth's evacuation routes. A single human ship, the Indomitable Spirit, was shown charging directly into the heart of the Devourer swarm. Commander Elena Torres realized something no one had ever tried before, Sarah explained. The Devourers feed on life energy, but they also use that energy to coordinate their attacks. Elena loaded the Indomitable Spirit with every psychic amplifier. We had and flew directly into their command nexus. The hologram showed the impossible moment. A human ship not just surviving contact with the Devourer command structure, but disrupting it. The swarm that had been perfectly coordinated suddenly became chaotic, confused. She didn't just sacrifice herself, Marcus added. She used our own life energy, our determination, our refusal to surrender, as a weapon. The psychic feedback overloaded their command system. For 17 minutes, the Devourers couldn't coordinate their attacks. 17 minutes, Ambassador Kresh rumbled. Long enough for your evacuation fleets to escape. Long enough to save 3 million lives, Sarah confirmed, and long enough to prove that the Devourers can be beaten. They've never faced an enemy willing to weaponize their own determination before. The challenged Chancellor Vorthak's metallic branches swayed thoughtfully. Around the chamber, delegates whispered among themselves in dozens of alien languages. The humans had presented something unprecedented. Not just a new weapon or tactic, but an entirely new philosophy of warfare. Your sacrifice saved your people, the Chancellor acknowledged. But one victory does not make you warriors. The Devourers have consumed entire galactic arms. What makes you think your determination can stand against such overwhelming force? Sarah looked at Luna and Marcus, then back to the assembled delegates. Every species in this chamber had fought the Devourers and survived. They were all powerful, advanced, dangerous in their own ways. But they had all accepted that the Devourers were an unstoppable force to be contained, not defeated. Because we don't know how to quit, Sarah said simply. Every species here has made peace with the idea that the Devourers are eternal. You've built your strategies around containment and survival, but humans have never encountered a problem we couldn't solve if we were willing to pay the price. She gestured to her companions. Luna here has kept our ships running on spare parts and stubbornness for 6 months. Marcus has carried the medical needs of 3,000 refugees while documenting every detail of our battles. I've led them here across impossible distances because we refuse to accept that our story ends with defeat. And if we test this determination of yours? Ambassador Kresh asked. What if we put you against impossible odds to see if your spirit is more than words? Sarah's eyes gleamed. This was what she had been hoping for. Not pity or charity, but a chance to prove humanity's worth. Then you'll learn why the Devourers retreated from us, Ambassador, and why they should fear us all. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates were intrigued, others skeptical. But for the first time in 1,000 years, someone had offered them hope instead of just another way to delay the inevitable. Chancellor Vorthak raised his branches for silence. Very well, humans. You will have your test. But know this. The trial we devise will be designed to break the strongest warriors we know. If you fail, your ships will be refueled and sent on their way. The Alliance has no place for those who cannot back up their words with action. Sarah nodded grimly. And if we succeed? If you succeed, the Chancellor replied, you will have earned something no species has achieved in 500 years. Not just membership in the Alliance, but leadership positions in our war against the Devourers. As the human delegation was escorted to their quarters, Sarah felt the weight of her species' future pressing down on her. They had one chance to prove that humanity deserved to stand among the galaxy's greatest warriors. One chance to show that their determination was more than just words. The test would come tomorrow, and with it, humanity's last stand would either become their greatest victory or their final defeat. The demonstration of human spirit, the impossible test. The simulation chamber was a marvel of alien technology that could recreate any battlefield, condition imaginable. As Sarah, Luna, and Marcus entered the massive space, holographic projectors came to life around them. The chamber transformed into a perfect replica of the Kepler defense line, the Alliance's most fortified military position, where 12 species had held back Devourer advances for over 2 centuries. Ambassador Kresh's armored form towered over the observation deck. His voice boomed through the speakers as he addressed the humans below. Your test is simple, humans. The simulation will recreate the Battle of Kepler Station, but with modifications. You will face odds that destroyed 3 Alliance fleets. Your forces will be limited to what your damaged ships can provide. You have 1 hour to devise a strategy that even our greatest military minds could not achieve. Chancellor Vorthak's metallic branches swayed as he added, "The simulation is based on real battle data. Every devourer movement, every energy signature, every tactical pattern has been replicated perfectly. In 300 years of running this simulation, no single species has ever achieved victory. The best result was the Pyrothian fire clans who managed to delay defeat for 47 minutes. Dr. Marcus Webb looked up at the alien observers and asked quietly, "And if we achieve the impossible? Then you will have proven that human determination is more than empty words," replied Counselor Mist, her gaseous form swirling with anticipation. "But understand, this simulation killed over 2 million Alliance soldiers in the real battle. Your virtual crews will experience everything as if it were real. The psychological strain alone has broken seasoned warriors." Sarah surveyed the holographic battlefield taking shape around them. Massive space stations hung in formation, protected by energy shields that could withstand planet-killing weapons. Devourer forces massed in the distance like a living storm cloud, their bioships pulsing with malevolent hunger. The tactical display showed the human forces available: 3 damaged ships, minimal weapons, and crews running on nothing but determination. "We accept the challenge," Sarah declared, "but we'll need our full crew for this." Within minutes, every human survivor from the 3 ships had been transported to the simulation chamber. 3,000 souls who had lost everything but still stood ready to fight again. They were engineers, medics, teachers, children, elderly civilians, not professional soldiers. But they were human, and that meant they carried something the galaxy had never seen before. The strategy of the desperate Luna Rodriguez stood before a holographic display showing their available resources. 3 ships with minimal weapons, failing, shields and reactor cores held together by pure stubbornness. Any rational military mind would surrender immediately rather than face certain destruction. "This is insane," whispered Lieutenant Chen, Sarah's nephew who had survived the evacuation of New Beijing. "Those Devourer bioships are each the size of our entire fleet. Their energy readings are off the charts." "Exactly," Luna replied with a grin that had become legendary among the survivors. "They're expecting us to fight like everyone else has fought. But we're not everyone else." She turned to address the assembled humans. "Listen up, everyone. We're going to do something that's never been tried before. We're going to turn our weaknesses into weapons." Dr. Marcus Webb activated his medical scanners and began analyzing the Devourer force composition. "According to our battle data from Earth, the Devourers coordinate through bio-neural networks. Each ship is connected to the others through psychic links. That's what makes them so dangerous. Perfect coordination across thousands of units. But it's also their weakness," Sarah added, understanding Luna's plan immediately. "Elena Torres proved that at Luna Base. Overload their network, and they become chaos instead of coordination." Luna nodded enthusiastically. "Right, but we can't just sacrifice 1 ship like Elena did. We don't have psychic amplifiers or military-grade equipment. We have something better." She gestured to the crowd of refugees surrounding them. "We have people who refuse to give up. 3,000 humans who have already lost everything and are still fighting. The Devourers feed on life energy, but they've never encountered life energy backed by pure human stubbornness." The plan that emerged was unlike anything in military history. Instead of fighting the Devourers ship to ship, the humans would use their damaged vessels as delivery systems. Every person on the 3 ships would focus their determination, their refusal to surrender, their absolute commitment to survival, and project it directly into the Devourer neural network. "It's completely insane," observed Chief Engineer Park as he reviewed the technical requirements. "We'll have to drop our shields, open our ships to space, and basically broadcast our life signatures directly at creatures that eat life energy for breakfast." "Exactly," Sarah replied. "They'll expect us to protect our life energy. Instead, we're going to weaponize it." The volunteers. As the plan took shape, Sarah realized they would need volunteers for the most dangerous part of the mission. Someone would have to manually target the Devourer command nexus while the fleet broadcast human determination at maximum intensity. It was essentially a suicide mission, flying unshielded into the heart of the enemy formation. "I'll take the targeting run," Sarah announced, but she was immediately interrupted by dozens of voices. "No, Commander, let me do it," called out Pilot Martinez, whose family had died defending the Mars colonies. "I volunteer," said Engineer Thompson, whose wife had been lost during the evacuation of Europa Station. "Take me instead," added Dr. Kim, whose children had been on the last transport from Earth. Within minutes, over 200 people had volunteered for the suicide mission. Not trained soldiers or hardened warriors, but teachers and farmers, scientists and artists, parents and grandparents. All of them ready to die if it meant their species would survive. Ambassador Kresh watched from the observation deck with growing amazement. "This is unprecedented," he rumbled to his fellow delegates. "In any rational military force, such a mission would require conscription or massive incentives. These humans are fighting over who gets to die first." "It's not about dying," Chancellor Vorthak observed, his metallic branches trembling with something that might have been awe. "They're fighting over who gets to ensure the others live. I've never seen such dedication." Sarah looked at all the volunteers and felt her heart break and swell with pride simultaneously. "Thank you all. But this mission needs someone who understands the Devourer neural patterns, someone who studied their weaknesses." She turned to Dr. Marcus Webb. "Marcus, you're the only one qualified." Marcus nodded grimly. He had expected this moment. "I've been preparing for it since Luna Base. Elena Torres showed us the way. Now someone has to follow her path." The impossible battle, the simulation, began with the Devourer advance. Thousands of bioships swept forward like a living tsunami, their organic hulls pulsing with absorbed life energy from countless conquered worlds. The human fleet looked pathetically small by comparison, 3 damaged ships drifting in formation, their weapons barely functional. The Alliance observers watched as the humans implemented their impossible strategy. Instead of raising shields, they opened their ships to space. Instead of powering weapons, they channeled everything into broadcast arrays. And instead of retreating, they flew directly toward the overwhelming enemy force. "Energy signatures are off the charts," reported Counselor Mist. "They're broadcasting pure life force at levels I've never seen. But the Devourers will simply absorb it and become stronger." That's when the impossible happened. As the Devourer bioships began feeding on the human life energy, they encountered something unprecedented. The life force carried with it every ounce of human determination, every moment of refusal to surrender, every instance of standing up after being knocked down. The Devourers had evolved to consume life energy, but they had never consumed the life energy of a species that had turned determination itself into a weapon. The bio-neural network that connected the enemy fleet began experiencing feedback loops. Ships that were perfectly coordinated moments before started drifting out of formation. Dr. Marcus Webb piloted his small shuttle directly into the chaos, targeting the command nexus with surgical precision. But instead of sacrificing himself like Elena Torres had done, he was broadcasting a message on all frequencies, not to the Devourers, but to every human in the fleet. "This is for Earth," Marcus shouted over the communication system. "This is for everyone we've lost. This is for everyone we're going to save." The response was instantaneous. 3,000 human voices joined his cry, adding their own determination to the psychic barrage. The Devourer neural network, designed to coordinate the consumption of surrendering prey, couldn't process the concept of life energy that grew stronger under pressure. The breaking point. What happened next would be studied by military strategists for generations. The Devourer fleet, faced with an enemy that became more dangerous the more desperate they became, began to retreat, not because they were defeated, but because their evolutionary programming couldn't comprehend creatures that used hopelessness as a source of strength. Luna Rodriguez watched her instruments in amazement as the enemy bioships actually began withdrawing from the battlefield. "They're falling back. The neural feedback is cascading through their entire fleet." But the humans weren't finished. Sarah realized they had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do more than just survive. They could actually win. "All ships, Pursue and harass. Don't let them regroup. What followed was the most unconventional military victory in galactic history. The human fleet, still broadcasting their weaponized determination, chased the retreating devourers across 3 star systems. Every time the bioships tried to re-establish their neural network, they were hit with another wave of human stubbornness that disrupted their coordination. The simulation ended with something no Alliance strategist had ever seen: a complete devourer retreat from a prepared position. The enemy fleet scattered to the far reaches of space, their neural network so damaged that it would take years to recover. The stunned recognition. The simulation chamber fell silent as the holographic battlefield faded away. The Alliance delegates stared at the tactical displays showing the impossible victory. In the space of 1 hour, humanity had achieved what the galaxy's greatest military minds had declared impossible. Ambassador Kresh was the first to speak, his voice filled with something approaching reverence. In 300 simulations, no species has ever achieved victory. The best we managed was 47 minutes of resistance before total defeat. How long did the humans last? Asked Chancellor Vorthak. The tactical computer's response sent shockwaves through the observation deck. Human forces achieved complete victory in 53 minutes with total enemy retreat and pursuit across 3 systems. Casualty rate, 0%. Strategic objective, exceeded all parameters. Counselor Mist's gaseous form swirled with agitation. 0 casualties? How is that possible? The simulation was designed to be lethal. Dr. Marcus Webb, still alive despite his suicide mission, looked up at the alien observers with a tired but proud smile. Because we learned something at Luna Base that Elena Torres died to teach us. The Devourers can consume life, but they can't consume the will to live. We didn't sacrifice ourselves. We turned our determination into their nightmare. Sarah stood before the assembled delegates, no longer the desperate refugee seeking shelter, but a proven military commander who had achieved the impossible. Honored delegates, humanity offers you more than just another species for your alliance. We offer you the key to victory against an enemy you've only known how to contain. Your tactics, rumbled Ambassador Kresh. They're completely contrary to every military doctrine we know. Exposing your forces, broadcasting your life energy, charging directly into overwhelming odds. It should have been suicide. It was suicide for the enemy, Luna replied with her trademark grin. They're used to consuming fear, desperation, and the desire to survive. They've never tried to digest the human refusal to accept defeat. The new Alliance Chancellor Vorthak's metallic branches swayed in what the humans had learned was a gesture of deep respect. In 1,000 years of war, against the Devourers, no species has ever forced them to retreat from a prepared position. You have not just proven your worthiness for the Alliance, you have redefined what we thought possible in this war. The formal ceremony that followed would become legend throughout the galaxy. Humanity was not just accepted into the Galactic Defense Alliance. They were granted leadership positions in the war against the Devourers. Sarah was appointed as Supreme Strategic Coordinator, with Luna heading the new Department of Impossible Engineering and Marcus leading the Psychological Warfare Division. But the real change came in what the humans brought to the Alliance. Within months, other species began adopting human tactics. The concept of weaponized determination spread throughout Alliance forces. Military academies started teaching courses on the human approach to impossible odds. The war against the Devourers, which had been a defensive holding action for a millennium, suddenly became an active campaign. Species that had accepted eternal stalemate began pushing forward, reclaiming worlds that had been lost for centuries. The legacy 2 years later, Sarah stood on the command deck of the Alliance flagship Unbreakable Spirit, watching as human-trained forces liberated another system from devourer control. The techniques developed during humanity's desperate flight from Earth had become the foundation of the galaxy's new military doctrine. Luna's impossible engineering had revolutionized ship design, creating vessels that grew stronger under stress rather than weaker. Marcus's psychological warfare techniques had turned the Devourer's own feeding instincts against them. and Sarah's strategic innovations had transformed a defensive alliance into an offensive force capable of pushing back the darkness. But the most important change was in the spirit of the alliance itself. Species that had fought separately for millennia had learned to combine their strengths in ways never before imagined. The human concept of no surrender had infected every member world, creating a galaxy-wide determination to not just survive, but to win. As the fleet prepared for the next liberation mission, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had arrived at the Galactic Defense Alliance as broken refugees with nothing left to lose. They were leaving as the teachers of a new kind of warfare, one based not on superior technology or overwhelming force, but on the simple human refusal to accept that any problem was truly impossible. The Devourers had once seemed like an unstoppable force of nature. Now they were learning what happened when unstoppable force met immovable human stubbornness. And across the galaxy, worlds that had lived in fear for 1,000 years were beginning to hope again.